That's it. That's the pack that supports it, Grainne. Grainne, you're very, very welcome indeed. The big lunch, what's it all about?
Well, the Big Lunch is the UK annual get-together for neighbours, and it takes place every Sunday, 1st of June
Wow.
each year.
And why is it necessary to bring neighbours together?
Well, it's very important because I think these days often both parents are working or people have moved into an area maybe they weren't brought up in, and it's quite hard to make those connections that exist in areas where people have lived all their lives.
And I suppose the people who have lived there all their lives can pass on the goodness of the area to the newcomers.
Absolutely, and I think it's also, if you're having a big lunch or having a get-together on your street, it's an opportunity for you to do that, because those opportunities aren't there the way they were when we were all at the school gate collecting our kids.
Yes, of course, and you still have kids to collect. I mean, you still find time to promote the,
I've got a bit of time left to talk to you,
lunch.
though.
That's wonderful. Yeah, where did the idea come from?
The idea came from the Eden Project, and it's funded by Big Lottery. The whole point in it is to encourage community spirit across the UK and to give neighbours the chance to get to know each other. It's very simple.
Are there examples of it having worked very well in the past?
Yeah, I think the reason why it's now in its 6th year is because it has been so successful. The success is very much in the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
What way it works is that we provide a free pack, which anybody in Newry and Mourne can get hold of by going onto our website,
Okay.
thebiglunch.com, and clicking join in to order that.
Yeah.
And then the pack is full of inspiration and posters and invites, everything to get a party started.
Okay.
But we even provide seeds to help you grow your own big lunch.
And where do these lunches occur?
Well, everywhere. Basically, once people order their pack, they can have a get together. So often people have a big lunch on their street. So
Out in the open?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the nicest way to do it, because you don't need to worry about the venue or clearing up. The birds will come and clear the crumbs.
Yeah. As long as you take
But
the paper stuff home
people
with you.
have them anywhere.
Yeah.
They have them in their gardens, round a kitchen table. They don't have to be really big. The idea is that the bigness comes from everybody joining in at the same time.
Yes.
And raising the glass to neighbourhood.
Yeah.
But I have seen big lunches in Northern Ireland on the beach,
Yeah.
in the street, in a church, everywhere really.
Yeah.
You know?
How
Even
long
on the
have
back
you
of a
been-
lorry.
Oh, the back of the lorry. Yeah. How long have you been doing the work?
I've been with the Big Lunch now for 3 years.
Oh, well, you're well experienced in it.
Yeah, and I have to say, for my own self as well, it's a really good joy to work with, because from my own point of view, everyone you meet who's interested cares about doing something good for their community.
Yeah.
And often here in Northern Ireland, we only hear the bad news.
Of course.
Or we only project the bad news to the rest of the UK
Yeah.
of things that are going wrong. Whereas this is a campaign that allows us as individuals to put a good light on Northern Ireland and show how good our neighbourhood actually is.
Yeah, and of course, the majority, as you say, of the people are people who want to be neighbourly, want to be good, and want to get on together.
And I think sometimes if we don't know people on our street, we just say, oh, they just keep themselves to themselves.
Yeah.
And that is fine. But actually, sometimes all people need is the opportunity to sit down and talk to each other.
Yes.
So the idea behind this day is that once a year, neighbours will turn off the TV, no matter where they are in the UK, and just go out there and enjoy some food, fun and friendship with the people that live near them.
And would it be acceptable if I wanted to do a big lunch? I phoned around a dozen friends, neighbours, and said, look, hello, you may or may not know me, but my name's Rowan Hand. What about us we're getting this big lunch thing. Will we go out and have a big lunch in the local restaurant? Would be that all right, to go and buy your lunch?
People can do it whatever way they want. Often community groups, for instance, or schools do big lunch fundraisers. The principle is you take the pack and you make it work for you in whatever way suits you locally.
Yeah.
So that would be fine. The way I've done it on my own street
Yes.
is I come from the Glens of Antrim.
Well,
And I lived away.
You're the soul of hospitality there,
We
anyway.
certainly are. Well, everywhere. Newry and Mourne's a friendly place too. But what I did was I wanted to see if it actually worked. I put my money where my mouth was. So I went across the street and knocked one neighbour's door.
Had you met that neighbour before?
No, I hadn't. And I thought to myself,
Oh, gosh.
actually, I lived away in England for a long
Yeah.
time, and I wanted to see, does this actually work? And I have to say, even though I've got the gift of the gab, I was a bit nervous about knocking that first door.
Yes.
But I actually needn't have been, because they thought it was a great idea, and that gave me the confidence to go to the next door. For those who don't want to do the first bit of talking, in the pack we provide a little slip that you can put through people's doors, if you like.
Yeah.
And actually some people just send the kids round with those, you know,
Yes.
putting them in the letterboxes to generate an interest
And
with
then
a
you can
contact
go and
number.
talk to the people.
And so then absolutely, then they have your number to contact you.
It's an icebreaker.
And actually your big lunch could be as little as just 2 neighbours on each side.
Yes, that
The
would
idea
be
is you
that would
start
be
the ball
4
rolling.
people.
Yeah.
5 people, 2 on each side and yourself.
It's simply about being part of a big network of people
Yeah.
who want to celebrate local life.
Is the problem maybe is, if I can ask you, nowadays people are so busy, they don't have time for the old-fashioned and wonderful ways of good neighbourliness. They're too busy getting on with their own lives.
I think that's why this annual celebration is so necessary and why the lottery believe in it, because it is an opportunity for us to get to know our neighbours. We don't have those opportunities that we used to when people were scrubbing their front doorstep
Yeah.
and having a conversation.
The
Or
half moon out at the front, the woman knelt down and she
That's
reached
it.
out and you got this half moon of cleanliness there.
But
the
she
front
probably
door.
enjoyed that period
Yeah.
of time because she was able to talk to the woman across the street and
Yes, of
find
course.
out the goss.
Yeah, the goss.
But
Yeah.
from my own experience and from the experience of the big lunches I've been to and the people who
Yeah.
have told me their stories afterwards, I know that they love that I enjoyed as well,
Yeah.
that sense of getting back to basics and
Yeah.
the fact that it doesn't need to cost very much.
Of course, of
In
course.
fact, I know of one that's being planned at the moment, and what they're doing is they're collecting 50p a week from the people who are taking part
Yeah.
so that it doesn't hurt at the end. I know of people who have had big lunches where they've simply brought their buy one, get one free,
Yes.
and they've brought that to the table. The whole point is that everybody brings something. So if you're a good singer, you'll bring that talent.
Yes.
And if I'm good at baking a pavlova, I'll bring that.
Yeah. Well, we have a sort of our own big lunch here every Friday. The people involved with this program, we come in here and we have a soiree.
Very
we
good.
sit down, we shoot the breeze, and we talk about no work is allowed to be discussed. And it's all good fun and good chat. Now, the Eden project, I presume that the Eden project runs this for the big lottery.
So what way it works is actually the lottery is funding this idea.
Yes.
It originally came from Eden, and Eden believes very
Who runs
much.
Eden?
Eden's run by a collection of brilliant people. Tim Smith leads that, and he was the founder, amongst others. And it's a destination in the same way as
That's
Kew
right.
Gardens or Botanic Gardens in Belfast.
Yeah, but it's one thing it being a destination, and then it's another for it to be reaching out into big lunches.
Well, that's exactly why I said that, because in fact, people in the public see it as a destination.
Absolutely.
But Eden's involved in huge amounts of projects all over the world.
Wow.
And this is only one of them. But it's a great one, and actually it's one that the people across the UK really enjoy.
Yeah.
The idea and why we believe so strongly in this is because often the people who come to Eden already care about the environment
Yeah.
or are interested in some way in doing good in the world. Whereas the big lunch is very much about giving people the opportunity to see how much fun it is to share. And often when people have a big lunch, the fun of the day is brilliant, but the output of having those good conversations and what they lead to,
Yes.
whether it's you finding a babysitter or being able to pass
Whatever.
your uniforms
Yeah.
on,
Absolutely. You're talking beautifully homely things here.
But that's what it's all about. It's not about
yeah.
world peace. It's about
Yeah.
starting to make things
Yeah.
work properly on your own
But
street.
I mean, maybe I'm too much of a a pessimist. I'm not a pessimist at all, actually. But what happens if they open the bottles of wine and get cracking in the wine? They all get slaughtered by the end of the day.
Well, to be honest with you, it depends very much on who's organising it,
Yeah.
what you know yourself in your area will work.
Yeah.
And so I always say to people when they're asking for advice and they're asking about alcohol, you need to take the consideration of where you are, what's sensible. Often if you're in a community hall,
Yeah.
depending on the weather,
Yeah.
that's not really appropriate
Yeah.
based on whatever their rules and regulations are. On a street or in your own house or wherever that might be, the judgment has to be that of the people in the area. But I think the best decision is based on you having a little group. So
Yeah.
when you start off your big lunch, maybe having 2 or 3 of you invited to get
Yeah.
involved and make a decision together. Certainly at my own big lunch, we did have a little glass of wine or
Yes, of
2 or
course.
3. But that said, we had a cut-off point.
Oh, yeah.
And we knew
But
what
you weren't
time we were
abusing it.
finishing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we had borrowed tables and chairs from the local parish hall.
Yes.
And we had a time that they were coming to be collected. So that meant that it finished nicely and people could move on somewhere
I
else
have
if
this
they wanted.
vision. I have this vision of you with a load of trestle tables in a rolling hillside field in the glens of Antrim, and you're all there singing and having a good time and the sun shining.
Well, we weren't amongst the cows.
No.
What we had was actually, we did ours in a circle, and tables and chairs borrowed from the hall, and everybody brought, one side of the street brought savoury things and one side of the street brought sweet things.
Yeah.
So we had a good mix to share, and everybody was allowed to invite 4 or 5 friends.
Yeah.
And actually what I was doing was running up and down the street doing street games with the kids.
My goodness.
Nothing, we didn't have a bouncy castle,
No,
we didn't
you don't
need a
need
ball
them.
wall, we
No,
didn't
no.
need any of those
No, no,
things.
no.
We simply just made use of what we had.
Tie a rope 3/4 way up a lamppost and swing around on it, you know, the way we used to do.
Well, what they did was we had chalks, which you get out like for a
Hopscotch.
pound. And they did hopscotch, and they drew on the street, and they
Goodness
wrote
gracious.
their names and whatnot and had fun.
Yeah.
And the next day it rained and washed it away.
Isn't that's the way of things, that's
They
nature.
loved, the kids
It's
loved
beautiful.
it. They actually got involved in making the bunting and
Yeah.
doing a welcome sign for the street and a road
It's all,
closed.
this business of writing on the street, it's quite Buddhist, it's Hindu. The Hindu people in India do this as a celebration. They will make they will do paintings with chalk on the doorstep of their home, and the more intricate the painting and the chalk picture, the more they worship their gods, and then it's all washed away again. The Buddhist people they will do a mandala, and the mandala is they take tiny bits of colored stone, and they will make the most beautiful, imaginably beautiful kind of stone painting on the ground. Again, it's done to bring together joint effort, people working together. It's then so beautiful and it's appreciated, and then it's taken away and it's thrown into a stream that flows into the ocean. So it's nice.
So go somewhere else as
Absolutely,
well. Lovely.
absolutely. But it seems to me, while it might be totally ideal to knock on any old door out of the blue, maybe to begin with, it's a good idea to have some kind of notion about the neighbour you're going to knock on.
That's something that I've told to a few people who have been asking for advice. I think we all know somebody on the street that looks friendlier, you know, and they're probably the best person to approach at the start. Also, as well as that, as I said before, it's a great way to fundraise, and if you're in a community group or, you know, volunteering, or a parent in a school, it's a good thing to do to order the pack and to pass it on to the group too.
Yes.
Because sometimes actually in bigger numbers there's an opportunity there as well, to have the confidence of getting it started that you maybe don't have at a more local level.
And would it be appropriate, you mentioned fundraising, would it be appropriate for a person involved in a big lunch to actually fundraise for another charity from it? That everybody coming would bring maybe a £5 or a £1 so that money could be raised for their pet charity?
Whatever way people want to do it. Sometimes people have done it that people come to it and they can pay for the barbecue. Or sometimes I know that the food bank has done it where everybody comes with their own food for their day, as we do, bringing something to the table, whatever that is, but also bringing a tin. And then having the tin stacked up at the end for them to take and give out. And other ways, sometimes people use it as a way to showcase what their community group has achieved in a year. So like letting people from the community come and have a look at what's happened, because we can be quite insular actually. You know, even though we're volunteering for a group or delivering something brilliant in our community, sometimes we find it hard to get the message out to the rest of the people who maybe aren't so involved in that. It's a great way to showcase that and also to celebrate the neighbourhood.
But I think it's wise, and you to go first to the people you know. Nowadays, you never know whose door you're. A couple of things could apply here. One, the person may be terribly, terribly insular and want to be left alone. The other thing, you could be opening a door to some kind of often to someone that you wouldn't want in your company, you know.
I think, certainly from my own point of view, when I tried it on my street, I didn't know who was behind many of those doors. But what I did do was just knock and give people a bit of information and say I was interested in it. If they were interested, could they let me know? Now, obviously on a street, you want to, if you're going to plan it for your street, you're going to want to get some kind of a consensus. And if somebody's very much against it, it's probably not the best place to do it. And you're probably better to move it to a garden or to a church hall or wherever it might be.
It's the art of the possible, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's about doing something in a simple way and starting the ball rolling just to see what impact it has. We have a friendly nation actually.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm quite sure of that.
Outside of Northern Ireland, we're known as one of the friendliest races.
Wow, certainly.
And yet sometimes we don't know our neighbours at all.
We don't. But I think that's a consequence, you know. I honestly think that's a consequence of the way life has changed, and everybody's working so hard to get the child through school, to get the next bills paid and whatever. The finer things of life sometimes slip, and what you're doing is refocusing on those finer things, so that people might start to prioritize those things again, and they become integrally tied up with one's way of living.
Yes, and do you know what I love about this as well is every story I hear is a good one.
Yeah.
Actually, in the last 3 years that I've been doing this here, there's been no problems at a big lunch.
Yeah.
Often you hear of problems at events, or
Of course,
it'll
but-
go wrong,
yeah.
it'll never work here.
Yeah.
But actually everyone who's given it a go has found that it really has worked.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is that when people come back with their photographs and their stories, I share those with other people across the UK.
Yeah.
Our website gets over 800,000 hits. It's brilliant,
Your
particularly in the run-up to the
website
date.
in Northern Ireland.
Thebiglunch.com. It's a UK-wide
Oh, yeah,
website,
yeah.
but we share Northern Ireland stories on it.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
a great way as well to get a wee bit of a tourism nudge there
It
and
is,
let
but
people
quite apart from that, it's,
in England know
it's
how
a
good
bit
it
like
is
saying
here.
to the English, we're not as bad as we seem on
That's
the
what I
headlines.
think. That is exactly what
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, yeah.
But also what's lovely about it is people in other parts of the world like Russia and Ukraine, even Canada, places like that, see it and go, oh, that's good, how do we join in?
Ah,
So what I'm saying is if those people want to join in, then everybody here should be giving it a go without
yeah,
even thinking
absolutely.
about it.
And we should be sort of reaching hands around the world almost, and it works.
And you know,
so
we
really
are a
well.
multicultural place now, you know, and also sometimes, particularly in smaller rural areas, when you move there, particularly if you're of a different race,
Yeah.
it can be very hard to break those barriers.
Yes.
And so somebody organising a big lunch gives
Yeah.
you that opportunity. And what I would say is, if you're a neighbour at home and you think, well, I know all my neighbours, you're the perfect person to have a big lunch, because actually you're the person that will allow everybody else to get to know each other too.
Yes.
And it's amazing what happens. I know a place actually up on the north coast that had a big lunch last year, and a guy said to the woman who organised it, you know, I was feeling really depressed and you've totally perked me up.
Wow.
Like, that's
So-
just great, isn't it?
And you could be having people there as well. Maybe you're the first person to talk to them that week.
Well, actually, I know of a Belfast big lunch where a Polish girl said, I've just moved to the area and this is the best welcome ever.
Ah, that's,
Isn't that
that's-
lovely?
It is lovely. It's
And actually, you know, whenever you lose a neighbour on the street as well, when you've had an event like this that has pulled people together, there's real respect shown there as well. And also, I know of older people who haven't been well, maybe when a neighbourhood has had a big lunch a couple of years in a row, and then the third year they'll bring the food to them or they'll come in and see them, and people just look out for each other
And
more.
of
We
course,
need
it's
that.
not just the one day. What happens at the big lunch trickles over into the rest of the year.
That's exactly what we say. It's a day of food, fun and friendship when people turn off the TV.
Yeah.
But actually that's the only start of it. From those good conversations, you know, it can lead to so much.
Yes.
And do you know, actually we now have a boot camp, a community boot camp
It's
at the
amazing.
Eden Project, and people from all over Northern Ireland are eligible, if they have a big lunch this year, to apply and go, all expenses paid, to be part of that community boot camp and to share good ideas
Yeah.
and get tips and ideas from people in other communities across the
Yeah.
UK.
We're really building community here, aren't we?
It's absolutely, and I think as well what I would say is it's not so much even just the building of the community, it's the maintaining it
Yes.
and the
yeah.
solidarity that comes from it.
Yeah, and people get pride in neighbourhood again the way they might have done years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it's particularly apposite at the moment because we have lovely togetherness is growing. The Queen and the President of Ireland, they're all coming
Listening
together.
to that on the radio on the way down.
Everybody's talking good sense and talking good joie de vie, the joy of living.
Well, I believe the Queen was tweeting in Irish yesterday as well.
My gum. And the man of the army who invited the President to inspect the British Army Guard of Honour, he asked him to do that and he made his request to the President in Irish. Can you believe it? It's I think it's all
It's
great.
very much about reaching out to each other, isn't
To
it?
each other
Yeah.
and to moving forward. And what's the most interesting business lunch you've had in Northern Ireland in your 3 years?
Business one or?
Your big lunch,
Oh,
your most
right,
interesting
okay.
big lunch.
Well, do you know something? I know this is going to be a bit of cop out in terms of an interview, but I actually think
They're
they're
all
all
the same.
interesting.
Of course they are, yeah.
And the reason why they are is because they all have a touch of that different area
Yep.
about them. And you could have 7 lunches, you could have 700 lunches in
Yes.
Newry and Mourne. Every one of them would be perfect in that they showcase something special about their own area.
Yeah.
But the ones that I actually like the best are not the massive ones, the ones that bring thousands of people, because we have had those.
Yes.
We have had councils organise big picnic events and, you know, parties in the park as part of the big lunch.
Yeah.
And they're brilliant. But actually the ones that I love the most are the ones where there are maybe 10 or 11 neighbours and they sit down together and they all bring something to the table and they spend an afternoon just sharing conversation, and they come back to me and say, do you know, I never knew such and such. Because that's typical of us, isn't it?
It is. How do people contact you?
It's very easy. You get your free pack at the website www.thebiglunch.com, and it's packed full of everything to help you get started. But Northern Ireland's not a big place, so if you have questions, contact me.
Yes.
My email is grainne.mccloskey@thebiglunch.com, and my number is 07703 189 048.
We'll say that again for them, and we'll break it down because they're scurrying to get a pen and a piece of paper now. So it's
So I think probably the easiest thing to say is if they want to contact me by email, info@thebiglunch.com.
Info@thebiglunch.com.
Yep.
Info@thebiglunch.com. That should do it.
Yeah.
It sounds great. And we're working towards the 1st of June, aren't we?
Yeah, so Sunday the 1st of June
Sunday
is the main
the 1st of
date.
June is the date.
And the pack is undated, so if that date can't work for your street, change it, but do it.
You change the date.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea to get involved in, don't you think? It's and it's coming to us this morning on the beautiful breath of the glens of Antrim, and you're so
very kind.
welcome. It's good
Thank
to
you
see
very much for your time.
Ron, you go well and good luck with it. Take care.
Thank you.